Hey, what's good, guys? Klutz here, and Essam here, back in another video. And today's going to be talking about the Houston Texans. And as we know, the Houston Texans are now 5-2 with the crushing, I wouldn't say demolishing, but I guess the emotional demolishing defeat against the Green Bay Packers. Now, this was a game that was very, very winnable. I think we could all agree. The game was right there for the taking. I mean, we beat them in the turnover game. We looked at least a little bit better in terms of running the football, I think. Our offense in general was not good. I mean, we saw the offensive line get absolutely destroyed. C.J. Stroud had really no time to throw the ball. The offense in terms of passing was just a disaster. It was a mess. Only 2 wide receivers caught a pass, and it was Stephon Diggs and Xavier Hutchinson. And Xavier Hutchinson only had 1. Tank Dell registered 0 catches. I think Dalton Schultz had maybe 2, 3, something like that for maybe I think he had 1 catch that was for some decent gain early on. I think it was like a 20-yard catch or something like that. But it's pretty clear that this team needs to upgrade. It needs to get another player in here that can create a little bit of change. And personally, I think I would do it on the defensive side of the ball because I don't think you're going to get another receiver. I mean, your receiver room is already stacked. It was just a problem of not having time for C.J. Stroud to throw the football, and that's what I think it was. And I think there is going to be change soon coming to the offensive line. I'm not sure if it's going to be this week against the Colts. I'm not sure if it's going to be the week after, but I think there's going to be definitely some change. Maybe it's Kenyon Green for coming out for Jared Patterson coming in or something like that. Maybe we'll make a trade for a starting left guard for a veteran. I'm not sure who that could be because you rarely do see offensive linemen, at least starting offensive linemen, be traded mid-season. It is pretty weird to see that. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I do think Houston definitely sees that the offensive line is a big problem, specifically Kenyon Green, just the interior in general. I mean, Juice Scruggs, I don't think you can bench him because he's done a solid, decent job. I wouldn't say good. I wouldn't really say good, but he hasn't been horrible, unlike Kenyon Green outside of week 1. Now, Kenyon Green, if you do bench him, I think that's probably going to end up being it for him in Houston. I mean, really hasn't turned out. But let's get to some trade targets before I go on a Kenyon Green rant. My number 1 trade target is Grant Delpit, safety for the Cleveland Browns. Now, Grant Delpit, he had an interesting start to the league. He came in, he played a little bit, he got hurt. Then he played a little bit bad, this and that. A little bit of injuries, a little bit of different type of coaches over there in Cleveland. And then over the past couple years, 2 to 3 years, he's finally started to pick it up. And let's not forget he wore number 7 for LSU. And if you're not a college football fan, or if you are a college football fan, I'm sure you know what wearing number 7 for the LSU Tigers means. I mean, it means you're probably the best player on that defense, or best player on that team in general. And Grant Delpit got to wear that number 7 jersey the couple years right before Derek Stingley got there. I think they played 1 year together. Derek Stingley was a freshman when Grant Delpit was coming out to the NFL. So I guess there is some familiarity. I'm sure they at least know each other to some extent. But Grant Delpit, I think he would bring a lot to this team. He does remind me a little bit of a Jalen Petrie, but I think Grant Delpit is way better in coverage, at least zone coverage. Now, in man coverage, I don't think Grant Delpit is that good. You can't really ask him to cover any tight ends 1v1, especially for the tight ends we're going to see later, like Travis Kelce, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, guys like that when we see them later down the road. I don't think you can ask him to guard them one-on-one. But in terms of zone coverage, I feel like he's pretty decent. I mean, his zone ratings on PFF and all of that, it does look pretty good. I think he would be an upgrade. I don't think you would have to see much of Eric Murray out there. Now, Eric Murray, he hasn't necessarily been bad, but he necessarily hasn't been good. He's been a okay. He's going to give you some snaps, but then he's going to give up some snaps. He's kind of like that type of player. And I think Grant Delpit, if you add him instead of Eric Murray, you're going to clean up a little bit of those bad snaps more often. And I think Grant Delpit is better in coverage. Now, let's take a flashback to yesterday against the Green Bay Packers. Remember that throw that Jordan Love just heaved downfield, to the end zone? I think it was 30, 40 seconds left. I don't know exactly how much it was. But Jordan Love just threw it all the way downfield. And if Eric Murray probably would have kept his head up, he maybe would have had a chance to intercept that pass, and that would have just ended the game. But instead, he tried to play the receiver instead of playing the ball, and the ball ended up being a massive overthrow. The receiver wasn't really going to be there at all. But if Eric Murray maybe kept his eyes on the ball, maybe he had a chance at an interception. And I think Grant Delpit, if you have Grant Delpit back there, I think there's a better chance at that ball getting intercepted. I'm not saying it is going to get intercepted, but I think there's a chance that Grant Delpit would have came down with that ball. I mean, he is a playmaking type of safety. He is a guy that has good hands to play that safety position. I mean, he returned a few punts at LSU. He definitely can give you some interceptions. Again, he wore the number 7 jersey for LSU, so he was a dominant player over there. And he has been decent the past couple years, so I don't know. I think he would be a decent addition. I'm not sure how much he would be traded for. I don't think it would be that much. Plus, I think he's coming into his contract year this year. I think you have to pay him after this season, I believe. I don't think Cleveland gave him any type of contract. Maybe I'm wrong. I think maybe they gave him a 2-year deal. I think that's what it was. So maybe you have him under contract for 1, or maybe he's a free agent. I don't have that pulled up in front of me exactly. But the point is, if you trade for him, you're probably going to have to extend him pretty soon, either this year or the next year. And I don't think he would be that much. I mean, maybe, less than $10 million for sure. Maybe like $8-9 million, something like that. And I think if Jimmy Ward continues to be inconsistent and continues to be injured, I guess, I think he should just cut him after the season. I know we just did give him an extension, but he hasn't really been that good on the field. And when he's been on the field, because he's always hurt. So maybe your future safeties can be Kalen Bullock, and then Grant Delpit. I think those two could be your potential safeties for the future. The next guy is Budda Baker. Now, this guy is probably a little bit more unrealistic, because if you trade for this guy, you're almost definitely going to have to pay him some big top money for a safety, and that money could range maybe to the $15-16 million a year, something like that. I'm sure he wants to be one of the higher paid safeties. And I think, who's the highest paid safety right now? I honestly couldn't really tell you. I know Marcus Williams got paid a couple years ago. I don't remember if any other safeties got paid after him. But Budda Baker would definitely want a new contract. I think, because he's in his contract year. He's going to be a free agent after this year. So you're either trading for him to be a rental, or you're trading him to pay him $14, $15, $16 million a year. Now, I wouldn't have a problem with trading for him to be a rental. Maybe give him like a 4th, 5th round pick. You're going all in. Just get another playmaker in the secondary. I wouldn't be mad for a rental if we give up a 4th or 5th round pick, something like that for Budda Baker. They might probably request more, but if teams realize they're probably not going to pay him, such as us, if Nick Caserio says, hey, we're not planning on paying him, he's just going to play half a season for us. We're not going to give up no 3rd round, 2nd round pick for a guy we're not going to pay, then I think that's different. But if you have the realization that you're probably not going to extend him, I would try to get a 4th or 5th round pick for him. Arizona, very unlikely to accept that trade, but it's very likely, I think, that they trade him away. I don't think Arizona wants to pay him, and I don't think he probably wants to be in Arizona anyways. Arizona is not the brightest football team right now. But Budda Baker, he could be an option. I believe he's, 27, 28. He's right around his prime, in his prime. Now, his coverage grades haven't been the best, but over the length of his career, he's been one of the better safeties in the league. I mean, he can do it all. Play the box, play deep, he can hit, he can tackle, he can play coverage. I'm not sure exactly how good his man coverage is, but I know he can play zone coverage. So he would fit into the Houston defense, I think. Now, I personally wouldn't pay him if you trade for him. I don't think we're in the financial spot to give him $15-16 million a year. We definitely could. He could fit into the cap. When you look down the road and you have to pay other guys, I'm not sure paying a Budda Baker fits necessarily with the type of guys that you have. But Budda Baker could definitely be an option. Now, the next guy is cornerback Greg Newsome, Cleveland Browns. Now, Greg Newsome, this is very interesting, because you still do have Kamari Lassiter. He should be coming back from injury, maybe for the Colts game, maybe the week after. Let's see how his, injury looks after or during this week. But you have Kamari Lassiter, and if you trade for Greg Newsome, that means you would have 3 starting quarterbacks. And I think that's a good problem to have, because I'm not going to act like Derek Stingley has been bad this year, but I'm also not going to act like he's been this number 1 all-pro elite guy. Now, he has had a couple of quarters and a couple of plays that he's looked like that. I mean, Derek Stingley's still Derek Stingley at the end of the day. But there has been some plays. Now, I know. I understand. Every corner, every second, every DB gets beat at times. I understand that. But it seems like Derek Stingley's been getting beat a little bit more often than not. Now, I guess that's more of a problem because the quarterback is nobody. I mean, you look on the field, everybody's old. I mean, I don't know. It's a weird little spot to be in. But I think having Derek Stingley and having Kamara Lassiter doesn't stop you from trading for Greg Newsome. Greg Newsome primarily played on the slot, I think, with Cleveland anyway, so you could just put Greg Newsome in the slot. Now, yes, that does make the problem. Where do you put Jalen Petrie? Because Jalen Petrie has been playing a lot of slot. That is a problem. That will be very interesting to see what they do with that. But considering that our linebackers are kind of cooked right now, I mean, Azeez Al-Shaair, he has a knee injury, and then so he should be back sooner rather than later with his concussion. Maybe you play around with Jalen Petrie, playing that sub-linebacker position, moving him back up and down from safety, maybe playing more box, traditional box safety. I'm not sure. But adding another DB, another cornerback to the quality of Greg Newsome should not really be an issue. I mean, Jalen Petrie shouldn't stop you from adding another, I wouldn't say top-tier cornerback, but another, probably like a second tier type of cornerback. I think Greg Newsome is pretty solid. I don't think he's elite. I don't think he's going to go in there and lock up guys like your Tyreek Hills or your Jalen Waddles or guys like that, but I think he can definitely play some valuable snaps for you, and I think it is also a contract year for him as well. So unless you're planning on paying him, you could probably get him at a discounted price considering it's just a rental, maybe a 4th-round pick for him. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure if Cleveland would even trade him, to be honest. But I think he's a name that could definitely be on the trade market because Cleveland, let's look at Cleveland. I mean, their cap space situation is horrible. They're tied to a lot of money to Denzel Ward. They're tied to a lot of money of course, the guy at quarterback. And they're probably not going to pay both Grant Delpit and Greg Newsome. It's probably only going to be one of them. So they're probably only going to choose one of them to pay. And the other one is probably going to be traded, I would think. I don't think they would just let him hit free agency. I think they would get something for him, even if it's a 4th or 5th round pick. But yeah, Greg Newsome, I think he'd be an option. He's 24. Yeah, he's 24 right now. He's going to be in his contract year after this season. Or he's going to be in free agency after this season. So I think it could be an option. No, I'm not saying I would necessarily trade for any of these guys. It's just different options that I'm given that the Houston Texans could look to trade into. Now, the last guy, this is a different position than I've been really talking about. I've really just listed 3 DBs, and I think DB is probably the position we do end up going after. But this position is actually on the defensive line, and this player is Zadarius Smith. Now you're probably wondering, another edge rusher, another D-end? Why? We have Will Anderson. We have Danico Autry just came back from injury. He could play a little bit of D-end. Dylan Horton just came back. He could play D-end. Of course, why am I blanking out of his name? He's our second best player on defense. Daniil Hunter. We have Daniil Hunter. He's obviously your defensive end, your other defensive end. Why are you trading for Zadarius Smith, who's on I wouldn't say a big deal, but he's on a little bit of a decent-sized contract? Why would you trade for him? And he's 32. I understand that. But we also looked at Matthew Judon. And Matthew Judon, he's also in the same situation, on a kind of bigger contract, a little bit up in age, 33, 32. We're just looking for pass rush help. You see the way we rotate our defensive line. Sometimes we rotate all 4 guys out at times, and I don't understand it. But if you're going to do that, you need quality depth to do that with. And Zadarius Smith, I still think he's an elite pass rusher. I mean, I still think he's an elite defensive end. He's 32. He's had a decent start to the season this year, I believe. And, of course, he's been pretty good for Cleveland and Minnesota in the past. Yeah, he was in Minnesota, right? Zadarius Smith. He was either with Minnesota or Green Bay, one of those 2 teams. I don't know why I'm blanking on that either. But Zadarius Smith, I think he would be a pretty good addition. Your defensive ends would consist of Derek Barnett. It would consist of Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, and then Zadarius Smith, Dylan Horton. And all of those guys are pretty interchangeable. They can play on the left side, they can play on the right side. They can line up over the center and pass rush the quarterback at times and 3rd downs. You can do a lot of different things. Zadarius Smith reminds me a little bit of a Danico Autry. Now, I don't think Zadarius Smith can play inside to the quality that Danico Autry can, but I think Zadarius Smith has that hybrid type of body. He can line up inside at times, he can line up outside at times, and he's a better true pass rusher. I think he's a better true defensive end, setting the edge. And I think that would be a great addition to be a rotational guy. I mean, yes, I think his contract, his cap hit is probably like in the high teens, mid to high teens, and I think that would be okay. Again, you can fit it in for this year. Maybe have him play for 1-2 more years and then just cut him. Or maybe he retires because he is 32. I mean, I don't know when he plans on retiring. But come play 1 season with Houston, try to come chase a ring. Let's see how it works. If it doesn't, we just cut him at the end of the year. I mean, probably didn't give up much. He's 32. Again, it'll probably like a 4th, 5th round pick. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think all four of these guys are listed: Grant Delpit, Budda Baker, Greg Newsome, Darius Smith. I think all four would be a pretty big upgrade to the team. I think they would provide massive value, massive quality. Now, my favorite guy, early in this video, or early before I made this video, when I was thinking, initially I thought it was going to be Grant Delpit. I think he could bring a lot of value. But now when I was making the video and actually talking out loud and hearing myself talk, I think Darius Smith might be the better option. Now, I know we desperately need another safety. I understand that. But why not get Darius Smith and just trade for average, like a random safety, or like sign another depth guy from free agency? I'm sure there's a guy somewhere left over there. But Darius Smith, I think he would provide better value. He would bring more than a Grant Delpit would to your secondary. I think Darius Smith will bring a lot more. I don't know. He would be my personal trade target, my personal number one trade target. Assuming Cleveland would trade him, I think they would. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Those four guys are probably going to be guys to look out for. I would really look out for the safeties, Grant Delpit, Budda Baker, one of those two. I think Houston could really make a run at one of them. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of them is a Houston Texan by the trade deadline, one of those two. I'm not sure if he would give them new deals. Maybe Grant Delpit, Budda Baker, I can't see because he would request too much money. But let's see how it goes. Let me know what you guys think about the video. Who would you trade for? But yeah, it's been Clutching Entertainment, and I hope you guys have a good day. Peace.